News Talk 1370 WOCA.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala.
All right, 5 minutes after 9 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. You know, on Fridays, we have a brand new show called Horse Sense, and I wanted to tell you why I'm happy we're doing that show. Not that you and I know much about horses, Robin, but we enjoy them. Your daughter knows a lot about horses. We could have her in the studio for that show or for the next segment that we're about to do. But the reason I like is because we've been here long enough to remember when this mall that we're broadcasting from right now, the land it's on anyway, used to be a horse farm. Mm-hmm. It was kind of hilly. I don't know that I actually saw horses here, but it was part of the farm.
Yeah.
Part of some big horse farm. Was it Ocala Stud? Was
Yeah,
that the name of it?
yeah.
I don't remember. And if you drove down 200 back in those days, you pretty much couldn't go that route without seeing a horse farm. Mm-hmm. And here's why I'm saying what I'm saying. I was in a grocery store down that way, gosh, maybe a year ago already. It's been a while. And I heard a guy say, "Why is this called horse country? I don't see any horses at all here." And I was thinking, oh man, you don't even know. What are you not? And so I don't know much about them. And the people who do the show on Fridays kind of educated me on this, because while the horse farms that I used to see on State Road 200 are no longer here, or at least most of them are no longer here. I think there might be one or two. Those farms still exist in our community. They just moved to different places.
Yes,
I guess
they
because
did.
commercial interests bought that land. It was probably in the best interests of the landowners, of the guys raising and the ladies raising the horses. Susan Klaus is on the phone. She probably knows all about this and more. She breeds and races. I guess races as well. Thoroughbred horses. She raises rodeo bulls.
That's cool.
She's the founder and president of the Sarasota Authors Connection Club, which is another hint. She's on the air to talk to us about her book. And she's going to be signing some books. She's going to be at the HITS event, the Horses in the Sun event, on Highway 27. Is it this coming Sunday?
Yes.
This coming
Nice.
Sunday.
Yes.
And she's also going to talk to us about horse cloning. Her book is Secretariat Reborn. It's a suspense thriller novel, so there's so much to talk about in such a short period of time, so let me stop talking. Susan Klaus. Good morning, Susan.
Good morning.
Thank you for being on the air with us today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So where are you right now?
I live in Mayaca City, Florida, which is like 25 miles outside of Sarasota.
Okay.
So I'm the only thoroughbred breeder in the area, I believe.
And I'm guessing
like you said, most of you guys are up in Ocala.
So you're familiar with Ocala, right?
Oh yeah. Well, when I bred, I have a small farm, 40 acres. At one time I had like 30 horses, and I believed in raising my own horses with my own mares and stallion. So, but when they got to be a year and a half old, they went to Ocala. To the trainer up there,
okay,
and then on to the racetrack trainer. So, believe me, I made many trips to Ocala, know the area pretty good.
So when
because of those horses in training. But since then, I've gotten out of. I still have thoroughbreds, but I've moved on to rodeo bulls. I find they're more profitable than. Racing is a very fancy business.
Really? So in rodeo bulls, do you have to have like the perfect bull in order for it to be a successful money making bull? Like with horses, it's got to be like this perfect horse, right?
Yeah.
Well, same with bulls.
Really?
They have to have the build, but mainly it's just like thoroughbreds. They have to have that inside, the instinct to buck. And not all bulls do that. Not all breeds of bulls will buck. And so it is a Brahma mix of bull. And then it's the same with thoroughbreds. Some of them have it and some of them don't. They not only have to buck, they have to twist. It's a...
Wow.
When you get a good one,
Right.
they're worth anywhere from $20,000 to $50,000. Which is right up there with thoroughbred prices.
Are they doing something to
and if they don't work out, how that goes with.
All right, now,
Yeah, they're
why
lunch.
do they do that? Is there a rope attached to their privates?
No.
No.
I mean,
Oh.
it seems like it is.
Right,
It is
right.
under their belly, and it is, in front of their hind legs. And
Right.
it does irritate them, but there is nothing to do with their
Okay, but that's not why they're bucking. Why are they
private part.
Why are they bucking?
Just to get that, just natural instinct of having somebody on their back.
Oh, they just want to get the guy off.
And plus that rope that agitates them, the
Oh, okay.
buck,
Oh,
But
yeah.
like I said, you can put that on a dairy cow, and they won't do nothing. They'll stand there. Usually they'll let down. So
So-
it is a certain type of, just like racing, just like thoroughbreds, they have to have it bred into them to want to, lead the herd, win the pack, be the fastest. You cannot make them do it.
I seem to remember we had Brahma Bull farms here as well that I don't see anymore either.
Yeah,
I think
we
we
did.
had them for a while here too. So let's talk about the story first, because I want to be sure we're fair to the book. As an author, you've created a story. Did you create the story simply for the sake of storytelling, or are you making a point that we need to be hearing?
Well, I have written books in the past, and I have always written fantasy books, sci-fi fantasy, and thrillers are a bigger sell. More people read thrillers. It's usually the young kids that are more into the fantasies. So, here I am breeding horses. I believe every thoroughbred breeder, it has to cross their mind that, they all wish that the next colt born was Secretariat. I mean, that's the dream, is to have this horse that broke all the track records. He was probably considered the fastest horse alive. He still holds the track record for the Derby and Belmont. And then, of course, cloning came along. They've been cloning horses for 8 years now. So I couldn't believe nobody had written this story. I mean, if you're going to clone an animal, wouldn't you clone the most expensive animal in the world? And that would be Secretariat, of course.
Wow.
But the fact is, clones, you cannot register them, you can't show them, you can't race them, you can't do anything with them.
Can you?
And that's the dilemma my character faces in the book. Is his father? He's a Sarasota kid, a sailor, boat guy.
Now,
and his
help me out with
anyway.
this. I got a science question for you. Do cloned animals have the ability to reproduce?
Oh yes.
Oh, okay.
Once they reach 6 months old, they are identical to any other colt
Okay.
that's born. There's nothing different. I mean, there's a little touch and go the first few months, but other than that, they're identical.
So, what is your thinking about the nature versus nurture issue? Is a successful racing horse successful because of its training or because of its genetics?
It would be both. If a young horse not trained right and has bad experiences, of course they're not going to be, have problems with it. But genetically, they're identical to their donor. So if they're raised properly and are, have those genes in them, they should be a great success. And we'll be finding out that pretty soon, because this has become a huge issue in the horse industry, that the quarter horse people who have clones, they have sued the registry. And this summer, this happened, 6 months ago, and they won the case. The judge awarded, saying that the registries have to register their clones so they can breed them and race them or do whatever with them. And I'm sure they're going to file an appeal to this, but it's the Associated Press has been running this story because it's gotten to be a huge story, concerning. So my book is coming out at the right time.
Yeah, sure
Yeah.
is. So, is this good news for the horse, the breeders here in our community or anywhere else?
I believe that down the road, in a few miles, there's going to be thoroughbred breeders that are going to want to do the same thing. I foresee I think the thoroughbred, the jockey club would fight it tooth and nail to the end. If it ever happens, it'll be decades before you see a clone racing at a track.
Okay.
That's my prediction.
Decades.
That's my own prediction.
Okay,
on
so
it.
you couldn't feasibly have a horse farmer literally having a whole field full of cloned secretariats.
Well, first of all, I don't know if anybody saved his DNA. In my story, there was the father of this guy did steal Secretariat's DNA and froze it because he foresaw cloning coming someday. and back in the mid '80s. So that's how my story went. So he had the DNA, but it's just like Barbaro. We lost Barbaro. He was a great horse. If cloning was legal, obviously somebody would have taken his DNA and cloned him. And the same with geldings that have run. Won the Derby. There's a lot of reason for cloning some horses. Cigar, who was a famous, won the Breeders' Cup. He was thorough. So there you go again. The bloodline is lost unless you're able to clone them. But I can see the other side of it too. This is a game of luck, and boy, thoroughbred breeding, they're pretty strict. It's strictly, luck that gets you a champion, more than anything.
But they try to decrease that luck mathematically because they see what horses are the winners, and then they go and they buy that sperm from them to artificially inseminate the mare, right?
That's correct. But no, on thoroughbreds you cannot artificial.
Oh, you can't.
It's not. It's against their rules. It has to be a live cover.
Oh, really?
And even then, it's luck. You can. I mean, look at Secretariat. He had tons of foals, and none of them were like him. There were some great horses he put out, some nice stake horses, but none of them equaled him. And the reason, of course, was because he was a freak of nature. His heart was twice as big as a normal thoroughbred.
Really?
And that's why he was able to run so fast.
Oh, wow.
Getting more oxygen. So that's the truth of Secretariat.
I should be able to run fast then. Everybody says I got a big heart.
You do. You have a huge heart.
I don't think I'm not that fast. So you're coming to Ocala on Sunday.
I am going to be there Sunday at the Hit 4 show, and hopefully people will be interested in my book, because it does cover, like I said, it's a young man who receives a colt from his dying father, who's an Ocala horse trainer, so it covers the Ocala area.
Uh-huh.
And then, of course, he learns that the colt is a clone of Secretariat. Well, it's illegal to race him, but he promises he'll do it. So this is his dilemma. And then, of course, he jumps into the underworld of horse racing with bad trainers, and the mob is there, So it's a very fast adventure, and it's more about him, more so than the colt,
Right,
this is his dilemma. He has promised this, and he's going to do it come, hell or high water. He's going to race this horse, and he faces all these obstacles. And the dilemma of should he cheat and race a clone?
Do you know what if this really?
I mean, which is an up in the air question with a lot of people. You can ask 100 people and you get 100 different answers on it on whether they should be allowed or not.
Susan, I have a question for you about this, and this is all, I guess, speculation. But if genetic engineering is perfected to the point where you literally could not only be cloning, but improving upon the donor animal, and it remains illegal to race them in the traditional sense, do you think there'll be a whole new league of racing? Like theoretically, could we see, this horse can't run in the Kentucky Derby, but he can run in the Louisville whatever, or make some other race up. And
make their own registry, in other words.
Right, and perhaps even break records compared to the naturally bred horses. Mm-hmm. I don't know, just a thought.
Yeah,
that could be the answer. But like I said, right now we're seeing a test subject with the quarter horse people, because quarter horses are raced also. And the only trouble is, it costs so much money. I mean, when I wrote the book, it was like $350,000 to clone a horse.
Oh, wow! I
mean, now I've heard that since the book came out, that it's $150,000. Well, that's still a lot of money to risk that kind of an animal, So I think right now they're more focused on being able to breed them than race them.
So how much?
But we'll see how this plays out with the quarter horses.
How much money? How much money is typically paid for the sperm of a race? Whatever you call the stud, whatever you call that. It's an expensive fee, isn't it?
Well, it depends on the horse. Depends on the stallion. and it's like I said, it's a live cover. You cannot ship sperm around. You have to bring your mare to the stallion.
Oh, you do?
Okay.
Oh, I thought they had it in a bag or something.
And thoroughbreds are the only ones that are so strict. They do not allow artificial.
But how much is
So
that?
I mean, the rest of the breeds you can artificially ship the sperm. But
How much is normally paid for that, though? On a
well,
The live cover.
yeah.
the highest one that I know of was Stormcat, and his was $500,000 for one cover.
Wow. So
Wow.
One mare cover, $500,000.
So the cloning seems worth it. The cloning seems worth it.
Well, if you clone Stormcat and you were allowed to breed them, yeah, that would be well worth. Well, if you figure $500,000 and he breeds at least 30, 50 mares a year, you're talking about a lot of money.
Yeah, because this is really big business, because from what I understand, which isn't much about the racing industry, but from talking to people, that the horses are bred just for racing, and if they don't perform, they're not kept as a pet. They're either put down or sold to somebody else.
Well, they are sold, but I think it's a little harsh to say they're being put down. I mean, I think there's
Because
a
that's what I
very
heard.
small percentage that they talking about the slaughterhouses that have now been opened up since Obama signed the bill, and that's a big concern. It's a big concern for me. I used to be able to give a horse away, when it was done racing, and not have to worry about it. Now I have to go through great lengths to check out the home it's going to. I mean, I did that anyway. But now I'm real cautious about placing a horse somewhere because of the new, I believe there's one even in Tampa that has opened up that for horse slaughter. And, it's a shame, but I think most horses, they go on to jumpers, polo horses,
yeah.
hunting, there's a lot of things a thoroughbred can do besides race. So
Susan Klaus is our guest right now. She is going to be in Ocala on Sunday. She'll be at the HITS event at the Post. Is it called Post Time Farm, Robin?
Yes.
From 8 a.m. until 4 p.m. It says here over on Highway 27 right there. And you're signing your book. It's called Secretariat Reborn. Are you signing any of your other books?
no, I am just bringing that one. I do have two more books coming out this summer. One is a fantasy published by Tor called Flight of the Golden Harpy. And then I have the sequel of this book with the same young man going on, but it's more about him trying to save sharks, which are facing extinction because of shark finning.
Yeah,
shark. And the title is Shark Fin Soup, appropriately.
Yeah,
Oh,
right,
yeah.
right.
Gosh.
So I have, like I said, 3 books coming out within a 10-month period. It's a little busy.
And when horses are bred for a specific purpose, they have that inner drive to do that purpose. If you breed them for racing, they have that inner drive to run, and the owners have to recognize that.
Well, they do, and the trainers, like I said, believe me, I've had a few horses that, that went through all the money to train them, and the trainer says, look, he doesn't have it. He does not care about winning, leading the pack, leading the herd. And when they don't have that drive, you might as well just retire them, find them a hobby home or something.
And that's got to be the risk that a breeder takes. They spend all that money, and then they have to say, oh, well, I guess I just lost all that money, right?
It is. I mean, for me, when I would send a colt off, a year and a half old or 2-year-old, it was like $20,000 for each one of them, just the training and getting them to the racetrack before they even ran. So it's, when they say it's a sport of kings, boy, they mean it.
And it's just not about the male, though. I mean, the female has to have some special attributes too, right?
You would hope.
Well, hopefully you breeding, great race, both of them are great race horses, stake winners or something, to produce that kind of a horse.
Susan, tell us about the Sarasota Authors Connection Club and the radio show you do.
Well, I started out, like I said, writing fantasies, and what I found was it was so much fun writing the book, but selling the book is a problem. And
That's hard selling.
yeah, and back then I had a couple of self-published, but So a girlfriend and I, we said, everybody talks about how to write, all these clubs, about how to, put sentences together. And I says, nobody focuses on marketing the book or how to get an agent or a real publisher, So that was the club that we started. And then after a couple of years, I was approached by a radio guy who says, boy, I'd love to have a show about authors, but I can't find the authors. And I told him, I says, well, I have 250 in my club. So then I got into this radio show of hosting it now, and it's fun. I get to meet Michael Connolly has been on my show 3 times. I mean, I've had some of the biggest bestsellers, as well as little self-published authors.
Sounds like what we do. Yeah.
Yeah. So the great and the small. But it's a learning lesson. I have 18 million listeners now in 148 countries. So
wow,
it's a web show. So it's really grown in 6 years. It's unbelievable.
That is really great. Yeah. So you forgive me for not remembering what you said, but you currently still raise horses, right? In addition to the bulls.
I have a whole bunch of retired thoroughbreds here. My old stallion I still have, but I have not bred him in 3 years, and I have not raced a colt. Yeah, it's been about 3 years since my last colt race.
So can I ask you something to compare books to bulls or books to horses? Why is it easy to sell bulls and horses and not books?
Well, if you have a name, you do. And actually, this book has done very well as far as, I don't know how many it's sold because it hasn't been out that long, but the reviews have been tremendous. I mean, I got one from the Tulsa newspaper that said it was the best book of any kind they had read that year. So I was real happy, and Publishers Weekly, and
wow, yeah.
So it's been really. But as far as the numbers, I have no clue. Maybe I'm rich. I just don't know it.
All right, so tell me this.
The publisher hasn't told me yet. Anyway,
let me tell you something. I want to tell you something, and then I want to kind of compare notes because it sounds like we do something similar with the interviews. Anyway, we ask authors all the time about whether or not they want or would be interested in having a movie maker make a film out of their book. We've had some very, very well-known authors. Robin probably remembers the name better than I do. And they will say, no, I've had that experience and they were awful. And so, oh, really? And they didn't like it. And then others, brand new authors, when you say, would you like this being made into a movie? They say, from your mouth to God's ears,
Yeah, right.
They want it. So you know so many authors, and you speak about this all the time. In general, what is the feeling? And I guess... If I was going to guess, I would guess it has to do with the outcome. In other words, you never know how good a movie is going to be. It could be good, it could be bad.
I'll tell you what, I have never heard of any author turning down a movie deal. Myself, I mean, everybody is thrilled to have them. And the authors that I've interviewed or know that have had their their books turned into movies, yes, they're disappointed because once that screenwriter gets a hold of your book, they tear it apart and, take out scenes that should have been in there and change the whole story. And I think you can probably relate. If you've read a great book and then you went and saw the movie and were disappointed that the movie was nowhere near as great as the book, I mean, that's the problem. And you can't blame the movie industry. I mean, they only have 2 hours to tell your story.
That's true.
And so a lot of the feeling gets lost sometimes. But I've never heard of anybody saying, no, I'm not going to take that movie option. I mean, everybody wants a movie option.
And two things about Secretariat Reborn, if it's made into a movie. First of all, you'd have some beautiful scenery, because all horse farms are beautiful.
Oh, yeah, they're gorgeous.
And second of all, Ocala would be excited, because probably some of the shot would be done here. Some of the shooting would be done here, right?
Yeah.
Right. The story starts in Ocala. It goes down to the Miami tracks. It covers all them. And then, of course, Sarasota, which is where this guy is from. His sailing and fishing, that kind. So it's a well-rounded story. I mean, you don't have to be a horse lover to love it, But the thing is, it is a learning curve for people who know nothing about thoroughbred racing or thoroughbreds. But you learn what's behind the scenes, what takes place.
Yeah.
And you did
like a champion.
And you did bring out a really important point about the human aspect. I mean, you just cannot treat the horses like they're machines. You have to give them caring and love.
Well, like I said, this guy, he experienced a bad trainer and finds out about how heartless there are a few people can be. That the only thing they want is to win, and the heck with what's good for the animal, you know. So it's like anything. There's good and bad people in every industry. So
yeah.
But it does cover that, the good and the bad.
All right, Susan, thank you for being on our show. Susan Klaus, the book is called Secretariat Reborn. She will be in Ocala next Sunday, February 9th, from 8 a.m. until 4 p.m. over at the HITS event, the Horses in the Sun event, which is at the Post Time Farm on Highway 27 here in Ocala, and sounds like a lot of fun. I hope the weather's good.
Me too.
Yeah. Susan, be careful coming up here. Thank you so much for being on our show, and good luck with everything. Come back.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Great interview. We'll take a little break, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to WOCA News Talk 1370, Ocala's source for what's happening in today's hottest, up-to-date news and topics.
The Usual Suspects Jazz Quartet will be in Arthur's Bistro at the Hilton Hotel on February 1st from 6:30 till 9:30 p.m. And then on February 15th, Arthur's Bistro will be having a Gala Valentine show with the Usual Suspects featuring guest vocalist